They hope you'll chase them, so they can feel wanted without having to be fully present. And I need you to understand how deep this pattern goes. Because if you're sitting there after rejection feeling confused, feeling desperate, feeling like your heart is trying to climb out of your chest, you are not crazy. You are not weak. You are reacting to a dynamic that was designed, not consciously planned like a strategy, but designed by their nervous system and reinforced by your love. Chasing is not just sending a text. Chasing is an energy. It's you reaching for someone who pulled away. It's you trying to close distance that they created. It's you trying to turn uncertainty into certainty. It's you trying to soothe the ache by getting a response. Any response. Because silence feels unbearable, and your brain starts telling you, if you can just get them to talk, you'll feel better. And that is exactly why an avoidant hopes you'll chase. Because your chase gives them relief without requiring them to grow. Your chase gives them reassurance without requiring them to show up. Your chase gives them the feeling of being wanted, being valuable, being in control, while they stay protected behind distance. When an avoidant rejects you, it can look like a clean no, but more often it looks like a soft exit, mixed signals, a vague statement, I'm not ready, I can't do this, I need space, I'm confused, you deserve better. And those words land in your heart, like a puzzle you're desperate to solve. Because part of you believes there is still a way to fix it, still a way to rescue it, still a way to say the perfect thing that will make them turn around. But what you don't realize in that moment is that your chase becomes the relationship. The moment you chase, you keep the emotional thread alive, you keep the connection warm, you keep their ego soothed, and you remove the consequence of their rejection. Because instead of them sitting in the reality of losing you, they get to sit in the comfort of knowing you're still there. They don't have to be fully present to receive your love. They don't have to be consistent to get your attention. They don't have to risk vulnerability to keep access to you. They just have to pull away and watch you follow. And you might be thinking, why would someone want that? Because it feels safe, because closeness feels risky to them, but being desired from a distance feels powerful. It lets them experience intimacy without the accountability of intimacy. It lets them feel connected without being responsible for the connection. It lets them keep the door cracked open so they can step in when they want warmth and step out when they feel pressure. So the chase becomes their emotional insurance policy. They can reject you and still not fully lose you. They can keep you orbiting around them. They can keep your attention as proof of their worth. And I am not saying they do it to be cruel. I am saying the pattern rewards them. And anything that is rewarded becomes stronger. This is why you need to understand the difference between being loved and being chased. Being loved is mutual. It has effort on both sides. It has consistency. It has repair. It has presence. Being chased is one-sided. It's you carrying the emotional weight while they decide when they feel like participating. And do you know what makes chasing so addictive? The tiny rewards. The breadcrumb reply. The moment they soften, the sudden, I miss you. The late-night message that makes your heart race. The little window where they act like the person you fell for. Those moments hit your nervous system like a drug. Because your brain is wired to chase reward under uncertainty. It's the same reason people get addicted to gambling. The win is not guaranteed. So when it happens, it feels intense. It feels special. It feels like proof. So when they reject you, and you feel the urge to chase, you are not chasing them. You are chasing relief. You are chasing that tiny reward that will calm your panic. But relief is not love, and relief is not healing. Relief is your nervous system getting a quick hit. And then the cycle continues. Now listen carefully, because this is where your power is. If they hope you'll chase, your greatest strength is to stop. Not to punish them, not to play games, not to make them panic, but to break the pattern that keeps you hurting. Because every chase teaches them, I can withdraw and still be wanted. And every chase teaches you, I have to earn love by proving, by begging, by explaining, by waiting. And that lesson will destroy your self-respect slowly, because you will start to measure your worth by their response time, by their tone, by their availability, by whether they choose you today. So what do you do instead? You do the thing that feels impossible at first. You let the rejection be real. You let it be information. You stop trying to change their mind. Because someone's mind is not changed by your suffering. Someone's mind is changed by their own growth. You stop sending the long message. You stop asking for closure from someone who creates confusion. You stop reaching for the person who just proved they are willing to leave you in uncertainty. And I know the fear that rises when you do that. The fear says, if I don't chase, they'll forget me. If I don't chase, they'll move on. If I don't chase, I'll lose my chance. But hear me, if the only way to keep them is to chase them, you never had them. If the only way to get their attention is to abandon yourself, that is not a relationship. That is a transaction. You pay with your peace, and they pay with crumbs. So let them feel what they chose. Let them sit with the space they created. Let them experience the silence without your voice filling it. Because that is the only moment where reality can finally speak louder than your hope. And meanwhile, you do something radical. You bring your attention back to you. You treat your urge to chase like a wave. You breathe through it. You wait 10 minutes, then another 10. You keep your hands busy. You move your body. You call a friend. You write down the truth, not the fantasy, the truth. How it felt, how often you were confused, how often you waited, how often you felt alone. Because your brain will try to romanticize them when you stop chasing. Your brain will show you highlights. Your brain will edit out the pain. Because your brain is afraid of loss. Don't let fear become your decision maker. If they reach out, if they return, if they suddenly soften, you do not reward rejection with instant access. You require presence. You require effort. You require accountability. You require a real conversation, a real plan, a real change. Because your love is not a toy they can drop and pick up when it's convenient. And if they never return, then your refusal to chase becomes your healing. Because you will finally stop training your heart to run toward people who run away from you. So yes, they hope you'll chase, because chasing lets them feel wanted without being fully present. But you are not here to feed someone's comfort at the expense of your dignity. You are here to build a life and a love that meets you fully, not halfway, not occasionally, not when they're lonely, but consistently, with presence and respect. They hope you'll blame yourself and shrink your needs to make them feel safe. And this is one of the most painful parts of being rejected by an avoidant, because the rejection doesn't just hurt, it confuses you, and confusion makes you search for a reason, and the easiest reason to grab is you. So your mind starts doing what it always does when it's scared. It starts replaying everything. What did I say? What did I do? Was I too emotional? Did I text too much? Did I ask for too much? Did I move too fast? Did I make them feel pressured? And suddenly you're not just hurting, you're on trial in your own head. And I need you to understand that self-blame is not always coming from truth. It's coming from your nervous system craving control. Because if it was your fault, then it means you can fix it. If it was your fault, then it means you can change your behavior and get a different outcome. If it was your fault, then it means you can prevent the pain next time. Self-blame is the mind's way of trying to make chaos feel predictable. And avoidant patterns often hope you fall into that, because if you blame yourself, you start shrinking, and when you shrink, you become easier for them to keep at a distance. You become less demanding. You become less clear. You become less likely to ask for real intimacy. And that makes them feel safe, not safe like love, safe like control. Because what scares avoidance is not always you, it's what closeness demands of them. Closeness demands presence. Closeness demands communication. Closeness demands accountability. Closeness demands effort. Closeness demands that they feel things they don't want to feel. So when you blame yourself and shrink your needs, you remove those demands from their life. You make it easier for them to stay the same. And you might not even realize you're doing it. It can be subtle. You stop bringing up what hurt you. You stop asking for clarity. You stop asking where you stand. You stop asking for consistency. You start saying, it's okay, no worries, take your time. Even when your chest is tight and your heart is begging for reassurance, you become cool, not because you're calm, but because you're afraid. You become low maintenance, not because you don't need anything, but because you learned that needing something leads to distance. And that is the trap, because now the relationship isn't safer. It's just quieter. It isn't healthier. It's just more one-sided. When you shrink your needs, you don't become more lovable, you become more invisible. And the avoidant might feel relief, yes, but relief is not attachment, relief is not intimacy, relief is simply the nervous system saying, I don't have to show up fully. So if you want to break this pattern, you need to stop confusing your needs with pressure. Needing communication is not pressure, it's a basic requirement. Needing respect is not pressure, it's a boundary. Needing consistency is not pressure, it's emotional safety. Needing clarity is not pressure, it's maturity. The wrong person will call your needs pressure because it forces them to face their lack of effort. But the right person will hear your needs and want to meet you, not perfectly, but honestly. Now I want you to see how self-blame gets reinforced in an avoidant dynamic, because it's not just inside your head, it's often something that happens in the relationship too. You bring up something that hurt you, and they say you're overthinking. You ask for reassurance, and they say, you're too sensitive. You ask for a plan, and they say you're trying to control me. You say, I feel disconnected, and they say you're creating drama. And if you have a big heart, you start believing them. You start thinking, maybe I am too much, maybe I am asking for too much, and then you shrink. But listen carefully. Labeling your needs as too much is a way to avoid responsibility. It shifts the focus from their behavior to your reaction. It turns the conversation into, what's wrong with you, instead of, what happened between us? And that is exactly why they hope you'll blame yourself. Because self-blame keeps you busy. Self-blame keeps you apologizing. Self-blame keeps you chasing their approval. Self-blame keeps you trying to be easier to love. But you are not here to be easier. You are here to be valued. You are not here to twist yourself into a shape that fits someone's fear. You are here to be met. Now, when you stop blaming yourself, you will feel something else. You will feel anger. You will feel grief. You will feel the truth. And the truth is that you were trying. You were showing up. You were communicating. You were caring. And you were being rejected not because you were unworthy, but because they were unwilling or unable to meet you. And that truth is painful because you can't fix it. You can't fix someone's avoidance with better communication. You can't fix someone's fear of intimacy by shrinking yourself. You can't fix someone's emotional unavailability by being more understanding. All you can do is stop abandoning yourself. So here is what you do. You stop rewriting your needs to make them comfortable. You stop apologizing for wanting what you want. You stop trying to be the perfect version of you that never asks for anything. You tell yourself the truth. I am allowed to want consistency. I am allowed to want effort. I am allowed to want closeness. I am allowed to want a relationship where I am not guessing. And then you act like you believe it. Because the moment you stop shrinking, you stop feeding the avoidance comfort zone, and you start feeding your own self-respect. That might mean you don't respond to mixed signals. That might mean you don't accept being kept on the hook. That might mean you stop explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. That might mean you walk away from a dynamic that only works when you are smaller than you really are. And I know that feels terrifying, because you think, if I don't shrink, I'll lose them. But hear me, if you have to shrink to keep them, you will lose yourself, and losing yourself is the bigger loss. So let them feel what it feels like when you stop blaming yourself. Let them feel what it feels like when you keep your needs intact. Let them feel what it feels like when you don't twist your heart into silence, because the right person will not require you to be less to be loved. The right person will feel safer with the real you, not the reduced version that was built out of fear. They hope you'll stay available, waiting quietly, so they can return without real change. And I need you to see how sneaky that can feel, because it doesn't always look like a clear request. It can look like a soft message, a casual check, in a reaction to your story, a late night, hey, just wondering how you are. And the moment you respond, the moment you open the door even a little, your heart starts whispering, maybe this means something. Maybe this is the start of them coming back. Maybe I should be sweet. Maybe I should be patient. Maybe I shouldn't say too much. Maybe I shouldn't scare them away. And that's exactly the position they hope you'll stay in, not fully loved, not fully chosen, not fully secure, just available. Available means you're still emotionally on call. You still make space in your day. You still pause your healing when their name lights up your phone. You still soften your boundaries because you're scared of losing the connection completely. You still keep your heart in the hallway, waiting for them to decide if they want to come home. And I'm not saying they sit there thinking, how can I keep them waiting? I'm saying their nervous system loves the option, because the option gives them comfort without cost. The option gives them closeness without commitment. The option gives them your warmth without the responsibility of holding you gently. So they reject you, or they pull away, and then they keep the thread alive. Because that thread is power. That thread lets them feel less guilty. That thread lets them tell themselves, I didn't really lose them. That thread lets them return on their terms, when they're lonely, when they miss you, when they feel jealous, when something else doesn't work out, when they want reassurance that they still matter. And if you stay available, they get to have you in pieces. They get to have access without accountability. This is where it breaks you, because you start living in a state of emotional suspension. You're not together, but you're not free. You're not chosen, but you're not released. You don't have clarity, but you have enough contact to keep hope alive, and hope without stability becomes a slow torture. You start measuring your days by tiny signals. Did they view my story? Did they like my post? Did they reply fast? Did they use an emoji? Did they call me love? Did they sound warm? And your nervous system stays hooked on these little indicators like they are oxygen. And the more you do that, the more your self-worth becomes a weather report based on their mood. That is what being available does. It doesn't just keep the door open, it keeps you small. Because when you're available like that, you stop asking for what you really want. You stop demanding clarity. You stop saying, if you want me, show up properly. You start accepting half connection, half effort, half truths, and you tell yourself it's better than nothing. But listen to me, nothing is sometimes kinder than almost, because almost keeps you starving. Almost keeps you waiting. Almost keeps you replaying the rejection and blaming yourself for it. Almost keeps you emotionally invested in someone who is not investing back. And what they hope is that you'll do this quietly, politely, with a smile. Like you're not bleeding. They hope you'll be the understanding one, the one who never pressures, never complains, never asks for more. So they can return without changing. Because if you never require change, they never have to do the work. They can show up when it feels good and disappear when it feels hard. They can avoid the hard conversations, avoid accountability, avoid repair, avoid consistency, and still have access to your love. And your love is powerful, your love is deep, your love is loyal, which is why this hurts so much. Because your love was never meant to be a waiting room. Your love was meant to be met. So what do you do when you feel that pull? When you feel yourself wanting to stay available just in case? You tell yourself the truth. Being available without standards is self-abandonment. Being available without clarity is how you keep getting hurt. Being available without change is how you repeat the same story with a different day. And you might say, but what if they're scared? What if they need time? What if they're struggling? What if they're not a bad person? Maybe they are scared. Maybe they do need time. Maybe they are struggling. But your life is not a waiting room for someone else's readiness. Your heart is not a storage unit where someone can leave unfinished feelings and come back later when it's convenient. You can have compassion for their fear and still have boundaries that protect your peace. That is emotional maturity. So if they reach out after rejecting you, you don't respond like a desperate person grateful for crumbs. You respond like someone who values themselves. You can be kind, you can be warm, you can be human, but you can also be clear. Clear sounds like, I'm open to talking, but I'm not available for vague contact. Clear sounds like, if you want to rebuild, we need consistency and honest communication. Clear sounds like, I'm not doing on and off. Clear sounds like, I respect myself too much to go back to the same pattern. And if they can't handle that clarity, if they disappear again, if they get irritated, if they call you too much, if they accuse you of pressure, that is information. Because someone who truly wants you will not be offended by the standards required to keep you safe. Someone who truly wants you will not ask you to stay available in pain. Someone who truly wants you will choose you with actions, not just occasional words. And here is what will happen inside you when you stop being available. It will feel like withdrawal, because your nervous system has been trained to wait, trained to hope, trained to interpret contact as salvation. So when you close the door, your body will protest, your mind will scream, your heart will ache. You will want to reopen it just to feel relief. But relief is not healing. Relief is the drug. Healing is the detox. Healing is you sitting through the urge, breathing through it, letting it pass, reminding yourself that a life built on waiting is not a life, it's a holding pattern. So you redirect your attention back to you, not as a distraction, as a return. You stop checking your phone for their name. You stop scanning your day for signs. You stop posting for a reaction. You stop keeping your schedule empty for the possibility of them. You fill your life with real things, friends, goals, work, sleep, gym, prayer, learning, creativity, anything that reminds you that you exist outside of their uncertainty. Because a full life makes you less available for half love. And the most important shift is this: you stop making access to you easy after rejection, not because you are cold, but because you are wise. Because rejection followed by easy access teaches them they can push you away and still keep you. But rejection followed by boundaries teaches them the truth, that your love is not something they can pause and resume without consequence. So if they want you back, they don't get you back through a "Hey stranger" text. They don't get you back through a like and a wink. They don't get you back through nostalgia. They get you back through repair, through accountability, through consistency, through showing up in the light, not just in the lonely hours. And if they can't do that, then what they wanted was not a relationship. It was availability, it was access, it was comfort. It was you staying emotionally on standby while they kept their freedom untouched. And you are not here to be someone's backup plan. You are not here to be someone's temporary medicine. You are not here to be someone's option while you treat them like a priority. You are here to be chosen, clearly, consistently. And if that is not what they can offer, the bravest thing you can do is stop being available to a pattern that keeps taking from you. Stop answering calls that lead to confusion. Stop reopening doors that lead back to the same hurt. Stop waiting quietly for a return that never comes with real change. Stop keeping your heart in the hallway and bring it back into your own hands, where your peace can finally breathe, where your dignity can finally stand up straight, where your love can stop being a bargaining chip and start being something sacred, something protected, something given only to someone who can hold it with both hands. And when you feel yourself slipping into the old habit of waiting, remind yourself that your future deserves a version of you that is present, not paused. Your healing deserves a version of you that is committed, not available. Your heart deserves a version of love that doesn't require you to stay half alive just to keep the door open. And today, you can practice that by closing the gap between what you say you deserve and what you allow, by choosing one boundary and keeping it, by choosing one act of self-respect and following through, by choosing one moment to not respond to the bait of vague contact, by choosing one step toward a life that doesn't revolve around someone else's fear, by choosing you again and again and again. They hope you'll accept crumbs, mixed signals, and vague half-effort gestures, because as long as you keep accepting them, they never have to change, they never have to grow, they never have to face the discomfort of actually showing up. And that's the secret of why this pattern keeps repeating. Because the moment you start settling for less, you start teaching them that your standards are negotiable. And when standards become negotiable, respect starts to fade. Crumbs are the "I miss you" text after days of silence, the late night thinking of you. When they're lonely, the half-hearted apology without accountability. "But I'm not ready for a relationship, but I don't want to lose you." The "let's see where this goes," that goes nowhere. And every time they throw one of those crumbs your way, they're testing something, not consciously, but emotionally testing. Will you take this and call it love? Will you convince yourself this is effort? Will you fill in the silence with hope? Because as long as you do, they get to keep all the comfort of your attention without any of the responsibility that comes with your heart. You see, an avoidant's greatest fear is emotional exposure, but their greatest need is connection, so they stay stuck in the middle. They want to feel wanted, But they don't want to be required. They want your warmth, but not your expectations. They want to feel like you still care, but not so much that it forces them to confront what they're doing. And when you accept crumbs, you let them live in that middle ground forever. And that middle ground is where your peace goes to die. Crumbs keep you attached to the fantasy, because a little bit of attention after rejection feels like hope. A small message feels like proof that you still matter. A casual, "How are you?" feels like a chance. And that's how you get stuck, not because you're weak, but because your heart is wired for connection, and connection doesn't know how to stop trying, even when it's starving. But here's what you need to remember. A crumb is not nourishment. A crumb keeps you hungry. A crumb keeps you chasing. A crumb keeps you addicted to potential. A crumb keeps you stuck waiting for someone who is perfectly comfortable giving you less, because less keeps them in control. Less keeps them safe. Less keeps you guessing, and guessing keeps you focused on them instead of yourself. They hope you'll keep rationalizing their inconsistency. They hope you'll say things like, maybe they're just busy, maybe they're tired, maybe they're scared, maybe they're healing. And yes, maybe all those things are true. But here's the truth that matters more. None of those reasons change the reality that they're not showing up. And showing up is the minimum, not the bonus. Because when you accept crumbs, you stop expecting the loaf. You stop expecting fullness. You stop expecting effort. You start believing that small moments of connection are all you deserve. And the tragedy is, the longer you stay in that state, the smaller you become. Your boundaries shrink. Your self-esteem erodes. Your days revolve around little bursts of attention from someone who doesn't even see the damage their inconsistency is causing. They throw a text. You feel a spark. They go quiet. You feel panic. They come back. You feel relief. And your entire emotional life becomes a cycle of highs and lows that look like love but feel like anxiety. You call it connection, but what you're really feeling is regulation, the brief calm that comes when the person who hurts you gives you comfort again. That's not healing. That's repetition. That's trauma disguised as chemistry. They hope you'll normalize it. They hope you'll start saying, "That's just how they are. They're not good with emotions. They've been through a lot." Because the moment you start defending the behavior that hurts you, the moment you start explaining their patterns instead of addressing them, they no longer have to face their avoidance. You're doing the emotional labor for them, and avoidance survives on other people's tolerance. So if you ever want to see if someone truly values you, stop accepting crumbs. Stop rewarding half effort. Stop responding to, "I miss you," with an open door, and see what happens when access has a price, not money, but accountability. See what happens when you say, "I appreciate you reaching out, but we can't keep doing this halfway." See what happens when you make their comfort collide with your boundary. Because that's where you see the truth. The people who only wanted your softness will disappear when it stops being easy. But the people who want your heart will step up when it stops being convenient. And that's how you separate attachment from alignment. You can love someone deeply and still stop accepting crumbs. You can care about someone and still walk away. You can want someone and still say, "I deserve more than inconsistency. I deserve more than fragments of affection. I deserve more than being someone's emotional home only when they feel lonely." And yes, it will hurt. It will ache like a withdrawal, because your body got addicted to the little highs. And when you stop feeding that addiction, the silence feels loud. The space feels empty. But that emptiness is not a loss. It's the detox. It's your heart clearing the space for something real. So what do you do when you feel that urge to take the crumb? You pause. You breathe. You remind yourself that you've been here before. You remember the last time you accepted less and how it felt. You remind yourself that love is not supposed to feel like waiting for permission. You remind yourself that every time you say no to a crumb, you're saying yes to your healing. And let me tell you what happens when you finally stop accepting crumbs. The avoidant loses their comfort zone, because their comfort zone was built on your availability, on your patience, on your forgiveness. And when those things are no longer automatic, they have to face themselves. They have to decide if they want to keep living in the safety of avoidance, or step into the discomfort of growth. And some will leave, but some will rise, and either way, You win because you stopped losing yourself. You stopped confusing anxiety with love. You stopped letting someone's fear dictate your worth. You stopped calling inconsistency patience, and you started calling it what it is, emotional starvation, and you started feeding yourself instead, with truth, with rest, with peace, with respect, and with the understanding that you were never too much, you were just asking the wrong person for enough. So no, you don't accept crumbs anymore, not because you're angry, but because you're done pretending that scraps are love, because you finally understand that your soul deserves the whole table, the meal, the warmth, the presence, the care, and the security that come with real love. The kind that doesn't disappear when things get hard, the kind that doesn't punish you for wanting closeness, the kind that doesn't come in pieces, the kind that shows up whole, and that begins when you finally decide that half, love will never be enough again.